So now I'm going to do evidence with you. So remember, I'm only teaching you what I know, everything that I know. So I don't ever prepare before I do these things. So you have to forgive me for yeah, it's taking time to think or trying to recall so that I give you as accurate information as possible, and not going so like deep tech. I'll try to be technical, but I'll also try to be as simple as possible so that everyone can follow. And basically, the law of evidence is a law of proving stuff, right? So, proof, the burden of proof. Let's talk about that technical term. So, burden of proof simply says who he accuses has to prove the case. So, it depends on the system. So a person is supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, but in dictatorships, you are guilty until proven innocent. And this what they call the martial law. In democracies that sort of transition the degrees of innocent to proven guilty, that allows you rise and whatever. And so it sort of limits that when there's overwhelming evidence of that, and some evidence that if you continue to be left out of remand, or like if you are given the same benefit of the doubt, you would actually do more harm than good. So when we talk about evidence, there are different types of evidences. So we have written and unwritten. So written could be documents, could be memos, could be receipts. We could have footages that's media. We could have it on social media. I'm just going to be broad on this so that we don't waste time like categorizing things. You just know that it's evidence and it goes in. And then we have verbal evidence. So um, we have issues in both sides, so those issues render the evidence admissible, inadmissible. So I know when you've watched movies and stuff, you've had these words, and you're like, that's a cool term. What does it mean? Well, it simply means in or out. Admissible means in, inadmissible means out. And the reasons why are broad. Either the evidence was obtained illegally, in which case some countries still allow it, some do not. So you want to check your laws, so specific laws. I'm going to teach you universal stuff so that everyone aspiring to be a lawyer can have a supporting guide, but then you want to know the law of your land. That's why if you land somewhere else, you have to write conventions so that you know the laws of your land. And so when you watch, similarly, it's like when people watch Criminal Minds or watch Law and Order and stuff like that, and then they assume they know the law, in which case sometimes it's not the same, especially in Africa, because the system of governance is different. Anyway, let's not be political on this video. I still want my life. So things that render evidence inadmissible also include the question of tampering with evidence. If there's the probability that the evidence has been changed in any way, the evidence has gone through other channels than the proper channels. Like instead of coming directly to the lab, it went into the hands, or it was at any point in time unattended, where someone could have done something to it. It's now or inadmissible. In terms of evidence, we have witnesses. So sometimes you hear someone saying something, and then sometimes you are told something by someone who was told. So that's double hearsay. So basically, it's like your word against the other person's word, and there's nothing more substantial to prove it. But then, it's admissible in some instances where they can show a clear pattern, and then it's inadmissible in as far as it's hearsay. So, what they say and how do we know they're telling the truth? What if I just pay people to say the same thing, right? Possible and probable if I'm like Bill Gates or Chiangwa. Anyway, basically, that's your law of evidence. That's simple. So what you want to do is go and read on case laws, what special provisions make it admissible, inadmissible, and then spousal privilege. So if you are my husband or my wife,